How you guys doing? This is Andrew at FloryPB. It's been a while since my last video. I've been kind of busy doing other things, and on top of that, I've had a couple markers to work on, been trying to get a couple new products together in the testing phase, and this project came to me roughly around a little before Memorial Day, and I started working on it, and then I got a bright idea because this project was for an active military man. I'm sending this off to Italy, where he's stationed, after I'm done with it. And, you know, it's Memorial Day, so I decided, just based on, it's an Apollo Angel LCD. I have a couple prototype parts that I'm trying to start making and producing. So I figured, the way he had this set up, it looked like he was trying to do a more performance-based marker than your standard Angel LCD setup, the hybrid regulator and stuff like that added to that. So I figured, why not? Let's go nuts. It's Memorial Day, then there's V-Day, and we have 4th of July coming up. Let's go nuts. Let's just go whole ass on this guy's marker and try to build a performance build LCD, not just put it back together the way it is, but actually do a performance LCD and do everything we can to get the most performance out of it without altering it physically. So we're just gonna put the modules back together. Everything's prepped. I even started assembling this before I thought to make a video. So everything's prepped up, and I just kind of prepped it up for this particular video, and we'll just go from there. We're gonna start with the breech. Actually, let me clear a couple modules first, and I'll explain what I did to each module so I can have room to do the breech. We'll start with the ram. Polished everything on the ram, polished the internal brass housing slider, polished the ram shaft itself incredibly well. Polished the hammer. No need to polish the hammer, but, you know, style. That's the only reason we did that. Everything's here. Put that over there. And we'll put this back together with the parts I plan on using. On the shaft, you guys have probably seen this already. I've been using quad rings, and this is 009. Quad ring goes on the shaft. That just performs a little bit better than an O-ring in a dynamic load situation. It's a little bit easier to get moving. The front is a U-cup seal, the stock standard U-cup seal. They're great. Ugh. I haven't used this one in a long time. All right. There's a little bit of lube on it. These U-cup seals are phenomenal if you can get them in the right sizes. Put it in the cup portion towards the back where the air goes. The brass filler piece goes in. Top hat down. Something's a little tight right here. See, the top hat slides in there. Real nice. Let me grab I'm sorry if I can't get this in the picture yet. There's a lot of shit going on here. You can see I didn't pre-plan this video. I just kind of am winging it. Something's off there. That does not feel right. I'm an idiot. I'm sorry. I dyslexic my ends together. The long end goes to the back. That's stupid of me. All better now. It's been a long day. So the front's reassembled. Short end's in the front, long end's in the back. The brass piece slips in either way, as it should. We got the quad ring. Give it a liberal amount of lube. That's super smooth feeling, which is exactly what we were going for with this. Put the hammer bumper on. Now, I don't really mind tightening these down, not super tight. There's not really anywhere for them to go in the marker. So I never really understood the Loctite portion of it. How people Loctite the hell out of them. Or how they Loctite the hell out of them from the factory. I shouldn't say people do. Same with the hammer. We're going to give it a little snug so it doesn't just lose itself. But we're not going to go anywhere nuts on it. That is super smooth. Let's just keep loading it with a little grease. Just silky smooth with all the polishing, the quad ring. We're going to put a little lube in there, put a little lube in the front. All right. So we're replacing the snap ring with a 90 durometer 006 O-ring. Now we're going to set this snap ring a little softer than normal, just because of some of the other modifications that have happened. Not my night. Want a little bit of a snap. Maybe a touch more. We'll have to modify that in to taste. That's too much. Perfect. We are going to put 50 durometer O-rings on the outside of it. Reason being, they seal a little bit easier. They're softer, so they slip on and off easier. They slip into the marker easier without tearing, which is really nice on this kind of marker, especially in this kind of ring here. And they just seal better than the harder 70 durometer O-rings, and they don't have an opportunity to wear out really because they're static O-rings. So let's just put that in there. We're not even going to screw it in yet. We're just going to put it in. But you hear how nice that slid in there? That's because it's the 50 durometer O-ring. We're going to replace everything with that 50 durometer O-ring where possible because it's just nicer. I bought a bunch of them in order to do this to these markers going forward. Valve, I polished it and I lapped the actual sealing face on it. That is because we are using one of my new cup seals with the Delrin seal. This also been lapped and made it to tighten down and to seal really nice against this particular valve. I'm still working on getting these to seal against every valve. It's just very difficult. Comparing it to the stock, it's just lets a little more flow through. It's a little more high performance. But for initial install, we'll give it a little bit of lube just to help with that initial seal till it can sit and set. This has two O-rings. The front one's at 015 and the back one's at 012. Also in 50 durometer instead of the 70 durometer that the standard O-ring would be. This is the 12s, right? Yep. Get that lubed, key it in. Where all these little fibers are coming from right now. And the 50 just slides so nice in comparison to the 70s. We can toss the pin in. Always lube your pins just to keep the rust and corrosion off of them. So we'll move forward a little bit. Put the spring in. We're going to use the standard spring. I was experimenting with some heavier springs, but I think with a little bit of care, I mean this particular valve isn't a one-size-fit-all. You have to lap it inherently into its position it's supposed to be, which means you have to basically flatten it and grind it against the particular sealing face, which is the cup seal's face for your unique cup seal situation. But once it actually seals, it seals very well, and it's a much cleaner, crisper shot. Now, am I screwing this up? I believe so. 007. Is next up. Now, there's no good way to do this, but this is an 007 50 durometer. These also work a little better for moving faces, especially when it's insanely difficult to get a quad ring in there, like this internal seal right here. It's very hard to get this seal in, and we're gonna give it our best shot on camera here. I apologize if this takes forever. Sometimes they go in easy, sometimes they suck. Gotta kinda. It's easier when you can get to both ends of it, but with these, you can't really. So you gotta try to wedge it in and make sure it fits. Use our 2mm Allen to These are definitely a pain in the ass to do. That's why I try not to do them when possible, just because they don't really wear out too much. And they're just such a pain in the ass. So we got it in there. And we got it. So I kind of wedged it in here. It's really hard to see. I don't even think I could zoom in and get it for you guys. Kind of wedged it in, and I peeled up the other end and tried to get it in the hole, in the groove rather. And then I kind of came in here with the 2mm and kind of pushed it and forced the rest of it into the into its groove. But she's in there. Perfectly. That's good. This one gets another 015. It gets an 015 quad ring. The quad rings are always 70 durometer, which means they last a little bit longer than a 50 durometer O-ring, but because the quad ring, it also has the great dynamic seal capacity. So those two are good. Let's just get the stack up. You can lube this up a lot, this particular thing. The LPR, it's a higher pressure piece. It's not going to suffer shoot down or anything like that. You don't want it to be crazy, but you want to give it a good amount of lube. You lube the faces, it helps with the slip that you're going to want. So we're going to stack these every other. The LPR assembly is almost complete. We're going to use a 50 durometer 015 seal on the LPR body. And the LPR is my standard fare. I polish the piston shaft just best you can, not that bad. You polish you polish the piston shaft, put a quad ring on the 015, put a 50 durometer 007 O-ring in there. And that's about as good a performance gain as you're gonna get on these. They're incredibly good as is, so you really don't need to. But for the sake of going as high performance as we can, we're doing it. Put that on. Square it up. Make sure you don't damage everything going in. The quad rings sometimes are a pain in the ass to get in there. Line up your pinhole. And lock that in. We're going to finish this tube with the volumizer, another 015 50 durometer O-ring on it. People always forget to lube these, but you should lube them. It helps them lock in better. or not lock in better, helps them seal a little better, and just easier with the threads. We'll probably end up taking that off when we have to do the pressure check, but it's easy, it's hand tight, easy enough to get on and off. One of the reasons why, well, let's assemble this first real quick. So we are going to use brand new stainless screws for everything on this, because why not? If I can ever get the bag open. So we need an 8mm, or sorry, an 008, an 0010, and an 008, an 010, and an 012 O-ring. We're using all 50 durometer O-rings. Just again, help with the sealing. They're static, they should last basically forever, but they just have a little bit better of a sealing property because they can compress a little bit more. A little bit of lube on all that. Let's see, 07. Sorry, not an 010, but an 011 we're using. Yeah. Again, in 50 durometer. Fits in there perfectly. You get a 4mm and a 3mm Allen. 4mm for the inner one. Just snug that down a little bit. 3mm for the outer. Now don't kill it, but just give it a little snug. Use my adjustable. Just a little snug is all it needs. Now that portion of the marker is together. You've seen our new valve we put in it. You've seen the polished internals we did. Some of it for show, some of it for go. You see the new O-ring selection we have in our LPR. And the O-rings we've had for all of our static seals as well as our dynamic. Toss this back in. So one of the critical things to building an actual performance angel is making sure your breech position is where it needs to be. You want your breech, number one, you want to make sure this O-ring's on there, but you want your breech as far forward as you can get it. That helps in reducing the gap on this side, which reduces the amount of air that gets vented out of the marker. Wasted air, I should say. So I've polished the hell out of all of the rods here so it slips together nice. We're going to lube them for keep the corrosion off of them going forward. These weren't that bad to get out. I mean, he kept this marker in pretty damn good shape. Now these are those weirdo Wentworth threads, which are actually a freedom thread, I guess. Some kind of weirdo thread. You got to use a standard Allen key. We're switching over to stainless steel to help inhibit the corrosion. Gotta make sure we get a little bit of lube on them. One thing you know is you don't want these to spin as you're rotating the breech, because you want it to slide so it stays in position and locates correctly. Like the key is to make sure you can open and close this without moving your Allen wrench. And we're going to try to get as far forward as we can without hitting everything. You want it to be nice. All right. I want to back off that a little bit. Sorry about that. I got a little over aggressive tightening that front one. And I stripped the thread a tiny bit on it. Wasn't happy with it. I think you guys caught all that. The camera looked like it was doing some screwy things, so I adjusted that too. We'll see how that goes. You want it to be nice and tight too, so it's a harder close. And what that does, that prevents it from rising up as much when the air flows from the valve up through here and pushes against the bolt. You don't want it to be able to push this open at all when these things are super loose. So you want it to be a little bit snug. And just perfectly tight. Alright, our gap is pretty good in the front and in the back. It's a pretty tight gap all around. Kind of like that. This is our custom feed neck on it as well. As low as we can absolutely make it without touching. And that came out pretty good. Came with this Hey guys, we're back. Alright, so it said recording limit exceeded. We'll see how that goes. I don't know exactly where I left you off with you guys, but I think I was talking about this the die feed neck with the slit in it to, I guess, accommodate a fatter hopper on it than was useful back in the day. And we have our rotor breech on. We have it located where we want it. Time to show you the second part of the prototype parts. This is our new prototype bolt that we have. Great flow characteristics. Has a 45-degree drilled here. It's drilled on a 45 in order to help assist the air get out faster. The whole bolt is tapered out from this diameter out to the max diameter we can get it, like an AKA lightning bolt was basically, or any really actual good open face bolt is going to be like that. The head is a Planet Eclipse soft face tip on it. Let's try focusing on that. And yeah, these are, we got a couple prototyped, got a couple more prototyped just to try to get into the dimensions that we want them to be. They are slightly sticky because of the soft tip face here. So that's why we adjusted this, the snap ring, to be a little different than stock. We want to assist that stickiness so it's a little bit slower of a release, but gets a full nice shot. These are also a hair longer than the stock bolt would be, which means it protrudes into the breech a little bit. The rubber can flex so it can push around. So if you put them next to each other, it's a hair longer, if you can see that. About as long as we can comfortably do. Let me grab my tool. Make sure that's back. We want the same kind of click. What that does, it pops a little bit forward more, kind of like a soft face bolt will, but this soft face bolt has a bolt hole, which we're not just blowing out massive amounts of air because it coincides a little bit better with that hole. The tip seals a little bit when it's forward, so it helps a little bit more. You'll hear that click. We want that click. And that's what we're looking for. Maybe we can go a little bit tighter. That's too much. Perfect. So that's set. That's the new bolt. That's the performance bolt. More performance parts that we're doing. And I think that should wrap up all the Angel-based performance stuff we're going to do. I got to go through the solenoid still, which we'll do on video. But let's switch over to the... one of the other reasons why I decided to just go for broke on this marker, because he came in here with a much better reg than a standard reg. And I've never actually taken apart a hybrid version of this Bob Long reg, but I am actually pretty impressed with it. They did a lot of things right that Bob Long didn't do. I mean, Bob Long regs, it's a good design. These Schrader valve design regs are very, very decent regs, a very good recharge and everything you can get on them. We'll work on this beauty stuff a little bit, probably off camera, because I don't want to keep wasting time on it, and make sure it's keyed in correctly for them. But some of the beauty stuff aside, they're pretty damn good regs. You can make the pistons fairly light, which is what this is, and we've went one step further and we hollowed out the inside of this part of the piston here in order to reduce the weight, reduce the mass of the piston, which is a linear relationship to acceleration. The lighter it is, it linearly goes faster when it accelerates by force equals mass times acceleration. So we reduced that, the weight a little bit. We polished up everything. To their credit, they do grind flat their actual die spring. This is something Bob Long doesn't do, and that leads to some old, or at least used to not die. So I don't know what a new torpedo Force 1 kind of style reg is, but the old regs, they never smooth these off. I went one step further and smoothed it down even more with 2000 grit sandpaper and a surface plate. Just try to make it as smooth as square as possible, because these regs from Bob Long always suffer from not being able to fully indicate, so they position themselves wrong, because this is crooked. It's a rough cut, so this slides around a little bit, this moves around a little bit, and it causes inconsistencies and problems in a very good reg design just by poor quality control. A poor quality product that they put out kills their actually very well designed reg. It makes it not a great reg just because their quality control sucked that bad, or their initial quality when they built them sucked. The other thing you can see is the hybrid reg has this nice fat brass bushing on the bottom, where the Bob Long is just stamped steel. So this does a really good job positioning the stack, indicating the stack well, gives it a nice surface to slide against, so it's free to slide. It doesn't get bound up and cause weird frequencies because it's getting stuck and it's jumping or anything. One thing they didn't do to improve on the Bob Long stuff, which I took the liberty to do, is they never vent their screws. If you vent the bottom screw, it makes this chamber vent easier. They vented the plate, which Bob Long didn't do, but they didn't vent the screw hole. And the reason you vent that is because this spring has a known constant rate that it gives when you compress it. But when you also have air sealed in there, because there's going to be air sealed if you don't have a decent vent hole, you're getting a variable rate attached to your spring rate that you're trying to do. So it leads to just weirdness. I don't know why they don't do it, but we did it. It's not hard to drill a hole in this if you have a lathe. So we just did it. We're going to replace the O-ring with a quad ring. It's a 113. And we'll assemble this guy back together. And this is a very solid regulator for what it is. And we just went that extra little step just to get the most performance out of it that we can with the quad ring, with the lube, with the polishing of everything that we could polish. Now that has a groove kicked into it, so we'll keep that groove down just to keep consistency on that. One thing to be cautious of is this would be a standard thread, where the rest of the Angel is metric threaded, minus those 2 screws we were dicking around with. And we don't need to replace that. It's actually a very nice O-ring. We don't really have to mess with the Schrader valve unless the Schrader valve's leaking. Then we just replace it with another one. So it's a very solid design. Uses industrial components. There are very good regs. Use another 015 for the top here. I don't know what he was doing with all the Teflon, or the gas Teflon tape. Just try to get that off. Hope it's not pissing out from there or something like that. We'll find out when we go to air it up later. It's the yellow tape. The yellow tape's the gas-proof Teflon. No idea why that's on there. Maybe he was trying to use it to indicate this thing better. Let's see where it goes. I forget actually where it goes. Yeah, it's not ideal. So we'll work on that later, probably off camera, just to get it to go to here. That would be the ideal way to do it. But that's on. Everything's on there. We will go through the solenoid next, get that assembly put together, get the battery in it, get the frame back on it, and that will be calling the night done. We'll do a shooting video of it later. But let's go through the solenoid. Let me grab a couple screwdrivers real quick. Always use a decent screwdriver to do this shit, because these screws are very tiny, very prone to stripping. Additionally, this screw here, this can be used to pull out that pin. If you screw it in and pull it out, make sure that this pin can come out before you lose your only screw, or just get new ones. I forget off the top of my head. I think it's an M2 thread or something like that. I don't know. Off the top of my head, I really don't know, but I can look that up. So we'll do those seals in a little bit. Just look at the solenoid, how it goes. A is in the back, B is in the front. SMC is up in the world as far as the direction goes. I like to try to keep the piston in the same orientation too. I know these particular pistons are, reversible, but I want to keep it in the same direction. We got to watch this top seal here. Now, I know this clicked because the first thing I did when I tested it was just to make sure the electronics were good. That top seal looks in good shape. Pistons all the way back, to just remember that. The back little seal is okay there. The final two screws. That seal looks pretty good. We're going to push this out the front. We're going to push it out the B side. Now, I like to go through these because this old Dow 33 gets a little cakey through time. So sometimes you run into leaks. Now, this is in same in line as this was, B in the front, A in the back. I'm going to flip this, but I'd be conscious of my orientation. Again, these are unidirectional, but these seals are tiny. I'm going to flip it back so I know I'm in the right plane. The seals are tiny. It's a very tight, precise fit. You know, it's like screwing around with the head in your car and putting all the... I don't know why I'm having such a brain fart right now. Putting all the rockers and everything in the wrong spot, putting all the valves in the spot they didn't come from. To me, it feels like a bad move in a paintball marker. It's a terrible move in a car. Push that back. Fresh lube, just nothing crazy. Let those screws fall out. Light lube on that. Just grease the face. Put that back. Now, never crank down on these screws. It is plastic with aluminum inserts. There's nothing strong about this. You don't need to push down on them too hard. If it's leaking, the answer really isn't to crank down on them to try to make it not leak. That is not a great strategy normally. SMC up. It's always amazing how well these solenoids have held up through time. It's getting late, I'm getting tired. Like, they still perform very well. They get overshot. Like, they're not supposed to have this much pressure in them. They're not supposed to shoot or cycle as fast as they do with paintball markers. And it's really amazing how good they actually remain. As long as you don't blow them up when an overpressurization, or rip the actual threads off of anything, or rip the wires out of it. They're nearly bulletproof. The only thing they do is, you can see a lot of times with these older markers, especially if they haven't been used in a long time, is the old grease gets kind of cakey, it dries out, and the actual switching portion, the non-electric portion, can't overcome that static friction that the dry lube gives it. So that's why I open it up, clean it out, and it really cuts out a lot of the worries. Grease that up. that in the spot. Get this back on its plate. If I know what I keep doing with that damn screwdriver. There it is. Give these a little bit of a snug, nothing crazy. Like just that, nothing much at all. I know it's hard to portray what not much is, but use a very tiny electrical screwdriver like this, a jeweler's screwdriver. I really like these Wiha, or I guess Viha, because it's a German brand. Put it this way, you're looking with me. I like these. I got these on eBay. I'm not sponsored by anyone or anything like that, but they are very, very nice. Especially the price isn't astronomical like some tools from some American companies that I would like to have, but you just can't stomach spending that much money on, especially when some things like a screwdriver like this might not even be made in America by certain companies. This is a German screwdriver though. It's pretty solid and it's not that expensive. So we're going to slip this guy in. No IntelliFeeds feeds or anything on this one, just simple. It's rocking a bunch. Let's see what's going on. Might need to shorten these screws. We'll see how that works, but that's rocking a lot more than I think it should be. We'll see how that goes, but it's not a big deal. Yeah, sub's not super happy. Let's see what's going on here. My plate backwards. My plate is backwards. Happens. Look at the holes. See where they are. My plate is turned around. Add a little test in there. Yeah, those are going the right way now. Check it real quick, make sure I'm not going insane. A little sanity check, looks good. Still feels like it's rocking a tiny bit. We'll work on that as we need to. Let's put this back with the standard so it doesn't get screwed up. Right. Again, don't kill that either. It does not need to be killed. It holds its place pretty well that way. I'm going to leave this dangle until I throw the battery in, which we'll do next. I'm going to take this reg off for right now. I don't need it on there for anything. Brand new battery. I always hated they included that stop on the LCDs. It just really becomes more of a pain than anything. All right. That's out there. Bring that back in here. Make sure that tucks in nice. That is good for that part. So we got our battery in. Let's throw the front cap on. This one you don't need to seal it, but we're going to put another 015 50 durometer on it. And ideally, say there's another 015 dies somewhere, like on your regulator, your tank or something like that. Your tank specifically, you always have a spare O-ring sitting in there with this, which is a nice little touch. I mean, they weren't planning on that probably when they did it, but if you know it and you're missing, you know, an O-ring, it's the standard paintball size O-ring. So it works pretty well. Let's toss the frame on. Then we get the cables tucked in nice and tight. Make sure we're not pinching our wires. LCD, both of them are the same size, the front and back. When we get to the IR3, that changes. I did not pull the right one out there. There it is. Make sure that clicks. Not killing it. Please don't kill it. All right. Let's put the solenoid in the sol. Grab the battery. It's not happy right now. Pull these up a little bit. Let's give that a test fire. Battery could be dead at this point. Might need a little charge. That's going to need a little charge overnight. It's charging right now. It's a little too dead for the screen. We'll get the back end of the marker put together. I'll refrain from putting the grips on right now. Just trying. And gotta put this guy in as I do this. And I think that's basically been an hour of video almost. I don't think you guys need to see me throwing the back cap on, so I think we'll leave it off for here. I'll let this thing charge up overnight, and we'll get a shooting video tomorrow with it. If I post this one before that, great. This is Andrew at FloryPB. If I don't, you'll see the shooting video of it tomorrow. And that's it for now, guys. Just want to add a little bit. The battery is extremely dead at 2.5 volts. So we'll let that guy charge up overnight. I just wanted to check that just to make sure that was what the problem was. Charger looks like it's solid red, so that was just that. That's it for that one. Alright guys, next day, we got her kicking over pretty well. Battery got a chance to charge overnight. That's all it needed. It was a little battery charging, and she's good to go. As it was charging, I set the LPR pressure to 100 psi, well, like 95, 96, that's kind of where it was reading, and charged the battery fully. Through a quad ring, or not a quad ring actually, through a 111 O-ring in here, tighten that up right. I actually switched these two ports, put the gauge in the front, put the fitting in the back, and it's snugged up real tight, real nice, the way it should be. Looks a little bit cleaner, definitely feels a little nicer to hold, to me at least. I mean, maybe he wants to change it, he can just take the O-ring off to change it if he wants. And she's ready to go. We're gonna try to shoot her. Dwell's at 14 now, stock 14 dwell, and yeah, sounds good. Next video, or next part, will be me chronoing this thing and see how it does with the really bad paint that I have. Alright guys, got to do bad news first. I was trying to get it tuned in with the new bolt, the prototype bolt that we had here, and it's just not doing, it's not super happy right now. Improvements I think I'll make is, I believe my pin is a hair too far back, and I mean the slightest hair, but what that hair does is, as this slides forward, the ram actuates a tiny bit before I'd like it to, so I'm getting too much blowback up through the stack. Because of that, I'm getting blowback, which blew tons of paint in the rotor. Fucking gotta clean the hole inside of the gun again, because, you know, trying new things, and that's what happens. The other thing is this, the Eclipse tip is just a hair too big still. It's just too sticky. I tried to overcompensate by bringing the ram back a little bit, try to give me a little more play, which helped with the blowback. But I don't really want the marker to shoot that way. I'll do that again. But I don't really want the marker to shoot that way. I want it to shoot the way it's supposed to. I want to shove this as far forward as possible. So this has to go forward a tiny bit, the pin, and I got to come up with a different soft face because the Eclipse ones are just too big. But I put the stock bolt back in it. I tuned the ram setting back into the stock bolt, and it's shooting beautifully. I don't have so much air left, but 308, 316, 301, 306, error. 307, 310. So the new valve is shooting beautifully. I'm just over 600 psi. If you consider this gauge accurate, which possibly not. Let me lower that a little bit. Said lower it. $296, $294, $286, $304, $294, $296. It's just shooting darts. The valve is doing awesome. The marker feels awesome. Starting to get a little bit low on air. It's got a real crisp shot signature. I like the boomstick on it. with just a little bit better of a valve. 279 duplicate, nice. 280. It's really shooting in pretty damn consistent, and I'm super happy with the valve and the valve's performance right now. It's doing great with the new cup seal in it. The bolt will work on that. I'm gonna give him the prototype bolt anyway if he wants to screw around with it. When I had it was shooting around 250 when this was shooting around 300, and that's just because it had too much friction by the actual rubber ring on it in the breech. So that was a little bit of an issue. Maybe I'll start looking at like a mini soft face to try to remake soft face bolts for these. I'll try that one next, see how that goes. I like most of my tolerances on the bolt, minus the pin could be 5 thou forward, probably something like that, something small, minuscule, but just that extra little bit gives you a little bit better of an actuation time. And yeah, that's it for now. This thing is it's humming, giving the best stuff we can, and she's shooting very pretty. My air is extremely low, but shot great. Board's working well, everything's working pretty good. And yeah, that's it on this one. A little bit of a longer project. Wish I would have took more time seeing the tuning and the actual failure process of this, but just running in and out of the the basement back up to here to do some testing, to blow some more fucking paint up into the hopper, it's not exactly conducive to the way I'm filming this yet. Maybe I'll work on that for the future. Alright guys, it's Andrew at FloryPB, and we're good for now.